Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer Cruz, and this is how SPED 120 has changed my thinking about education this semester. So how this course has changed my thinking about education is it's taught me to be more creative, especially when designing your lesson plans. A lot of students learn different ways. Some are more visual learners, some are more kinesthetic learners. So being able to create a lesson plan that kind of fits the needs of all of those students. You're not always going to be able to hit all of the needs of your students, but being able to kind of cater and keep lessons kind of different so that if one student has a strength in an area, you have a lesson that goes to their strengths instead of constantly having a lesson that caters to their weaknesses, so they're not really getting the most out of their learning. Next is to be a constant learner. It's always great to learn about the different disabilities that you may encounter in your classroom, so being able to learn about that, how best to communicate with students who suffer from that disability, and kind of be aware of some of the symptoms of certain disabilities so that if a child is undiagnosed and they're younger, we can catch it earlier, get them the services that they need so that they're able to get their best educational opportunities. And part of that is creating relationships with your students, getting to know them, their strengths or weaknesses, what makes them tick, to build that trust within them so that you are kind of able to learn your students and maybe catch some of these undiagnosed disabilities. And to be informed of the laws and requirements for your students, not only for you as a teacher, but be able to inform your parents as well so that you guys can work together as a team to build the best educational journey for your student and their child. So when I was doing my personal interview with my teacher, one thing that was really touched on was UDL in the classroom, and that you need to be creative when using UDL in your classrooms. So during my personal interview, I touched on this with her, and in this video I kind of talked about it a little bit more in depth. As I said before, she implements UDL into her classroom. So she said that it's important to know your students' strengths as well as their weaknesses. So you want to cater to their strengths and create help for the areas that they're a little bit weaker in. So those are the aspects that you will see UDL used in her classroom. She says that UDL comes in all different forms for her, whether it's having an extra person to give a student one-on-one help during class time, visual aids around the classroom that a student can look to help them with assignments, extra time on assignments to make sure that they are able to complete an assignment on time and it's not seen as such a barrier for them, and also a modified assignment. So she really talked about instead of giving a student 20 problems on their homework, maybe giving them 5 to 10 so that it's a little bit more attainable for them, but they're still getting the same sort of help and homework at home, just in kind of a modified fashion. So in this video, I kind of touched on the different ways that UDL can be implemented into your lesson and how best to fit the needs of your students. The next one is to be a constant learner, kind of educating yourselves on different disabilities and the different laws and requirements around those disabilities, the best way to communicate with a student who suffers from this disability. And in this semester, I highlighted the disability of autism, the different symptoms of it, and the different laws and requirements that are put into place to benefit those students. So you can see that autism is a developmental disorder that affects social interaction and communication with others. And the two disability acts that are highlighted were Americans with Disabilities Act and the Individuals with Disabilities Educational Act. So these are two acts that are put into place that help give rights to students who do have disabilities and make sure they're getting equal educational opportunities as well. And so this was kind of a big part of being able to learn as a teacher, learn about the disabilities so that I'm able to maybe catch a student who's undiagnosed with autism. So I think that's a big part of being a teacher, especially in the elementary level. So the next one I highlighted is creating relationships with your students. So you want to learn your students' strengths and weaknesses, as I've said before, and build trust within your classroom environment. when I was also doing the interview with my teacher, we also talked about in Universal Design of Learning how to understand what your students need from you as a teacher. I highlighted using task cards, visual organizers, allow them more time as long as they're actively working and progressing on the assignment. I think that was a big key to what she said, was that a student doesn't always need to complete the work on time, but if you can see the progress and that they're trying on the assignment, that's just as good for her. So I think that's something I might take into my classroom, because I think that puts a lot less pressure on the student, and I think that could be a good modification for a lot of students. Next is to be informed on the laws and requirements. So be able to know the different laws that are put in place to protect students and on the rights that they have. Earlier in the semester, we did a diorama on an IEP meeting where we learned about all the different people that need to be involved in an IEP meeting and what is expected out of an IEP meeting and the goals. So you know that you have the child, the parent or guardian, a SPED teacher, a general education teacher, and maybe a psychologist or anyone that has information on the child that is being in the IEP. So being able to know who needs to be there, what is expected out of an IEP meeting, so that you're able to go through all the channels to best help the student. And also we filled out a family legislation act so that we were able to see and inform our parents about different rights that they may have. I highlighted the IEP meetings and what they include, different acts and the services that are required from these acts and when students are eligible for these services, so 3 to 22, and how you can change different policies to better fit your students. You can go to your local congressman and fill out letters, and just understanding the ethical standards and practices and different resources that you can find that best fit the needs of your children. So being able to really inform your parents of their rights. And this is sort of what I learned and gathered from this semester that really kind of changed what I think a teacher needs to be able to do in their job. There's a lot more responsibility that I realized this semester, and I'm really glad I learned it now, because I can kind of prepare myself and I have all these resources that I have from this class to take into my future classroom that I can use to help me and my parents and my students. So thank you.